Hey guys, sorry I haven't been posting as many videos with as much frequency as I used to, but this new day job that I have, it is just kicking my ass and it has wreaked havoc all over my schedule. So I'm having to play catch up every time I have a day off, and often the thing that gets pushed all the way to the bottom of the list of priorities are my extra videos on my classic YouTube channel as well as my Patreon page. So I apologize and I thank you for your patience. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the final season of Star Wars Rebels. In the summer of 1999, when Episode 1 premiered, to me, as a Star Wars fan, that to me is when Star Wars kind of took a break and went away. And I know that sounds ridiculously dramatic, but from a fan's point of view, from an old school fan's point of view, once the new prequel trilogy hit, all of a sudden this was a new Star Wars that was for a whole new generation, that didn't resemble the classic trilogy in hardly any way. So I felt like, okay, well, my Star Wars is over and this new Star Wars has begun that doesn't really truly appeal to me. So now I guess I'm done with it. I'm done with this franchise. It is for somebody else to enjoy, and every great now and then I'll just watch the classic movies, and even that seemed to be something that was frowned upon. Like, the original trilogy became these movies that were old and dated and needed to be fixed. George Lucas needed to go in with his computer animated magic and fix those movies. Movies that I loved all my life and I felt didn't need to be fixed, but that's the way that the original trilogy, what was essentially Star Wars to me, was treated in the 2000s. And it really killed me as a fan. To me, Star Wars went away until September 26, 2014, when Star Wars Rebels premiered. All of a sudden, Star Wars went back to basics. It wasn't about the Trade Federation or the Senate or clones. It was about what it always was, a small group of brave, rebellious people going up against an impossible force. And then soon after Star Wars Rebels premiered, we got the new trilogy, which pretty much follows that same format, starting with The Force Awakens, and even Rogue One, a movie that I'm not very fond of, follows that exact same format. So the return of Star Wars began, to me, with the premiere of this show. Now, I've said this before a million times. You cannot judge a TV series by the first season. You really can't. It is during that time that the creators of the show are trying to figure out what the show is. They're trying to find their stride. So it's never really truly fair to judge that first season. Use that first season to judge the entire series. But this was not Dave Filoni's first Star Wars show. His first Star Wars show was Star Wars Clone Wars. So he, got the basic rhythm of how to create a Star Wars cartoon. So when he went into the production of Star Wars Rebels, he hit the ground running, and that first season was excellent. Then the second season was even better, and the third season was also great. And then we got to season 4. And I'm afraid to say that while it wasn't the worst season of a show that I've ever seen, it just wasn't very good. I did not enjoy season 4, the final season of Star Wars Rebels, as much as I did the others. It wasn't the most disappointing Star Wars thing I've ever seen. But, oh man, it was just a very bleak, somber season. It didn't have as much power and resonance as the first three. It really, really didn't. And I think, sadly, the moment that this show jumped the shark was in season 2, when they introduced Darth Vader into the show. That's a huge thing. Darth Vader is the most famous Star Wars character. People who don't know diddly dick about Star Wars can recognize Darth Vader. So when they introduced Darth into the show, all of a sudden, you put something in the back of fans' brains where you're kind of waiting for Darth Vader to come back, Season 2 ended in that amazing cliffhanger between him and Ahsoka, and they just kind of left that plot thread dangling in the wind, and I'm waiting all through Season 4 for him to come back, team up with Thrawn, and put the final nail in the Rebels' coffin, and it never happened. And it was just something that was so distracting. Like, I was just waiting for Darth Vader to come back. Waiting for him to come back. We know he survives this time period. We know that he goes on to have that amazing final lightsaber duel with Luke Skywalker and the second Death Star while orbiting the moon of Endor. God, I'm a geek. Anyway, we know all these things, and it just never happened. And to me, that was the perfect metaphor for this season. It was just for a show where so much happened. This season just felt horrifically uneventful. As per usual, the cast is excellent. I thought the writing was okay. It just, I don't know. It feels like they weren't ready to finish it yet. It feels like they were forced to end the show, and they weren't quite ready. They hadn't quite figured out how the show was supposed to end. And of course, the thing that pretty much derailed the finale was that there was just one huge Deus Ex Machina after the other. Just things out of left field just coming in and fixing everything. They spent 4 seasons establishing these amazing characters and what they can do. Ezra being a Jedi in training, Hera being an amazing pilot, Sabine being this amazing demolitions expert, Zeb, my favorite character, being this incredible, strong warrior, Chopper's technical skills, Kanan's leadership, all these amazing abilities. They spent all this time establishing that, and then in the end, the day was saved by wolves and space whales. That was the finale. Yes, I agree with a lot of people on the internet. It's not as bad as Ewoks coming in and saving the day. It's freaking teddy bears coming in and stopping the evil empire that has been ruling over the galaxy for decades. But it was a huge disservice to these amazing characters that they've spent so much time and energy establishing. To me, this season peaked when Kanan sacrificed himself, which was the episode from the last. That's as good as it got. That was the best moment. It was beautiful. He transcended. And it really bothered me that even after that sacrifice, he didn't show up as a Force ghost. I was waiting for that to happen, and it never did. And it felt pretty odd. There was kind of a sort of Force ghost, but it didn't fully happen. And if anybody deserved to come back as a Force ghost, it was him. I mean, what a way to go out, saving the day. So yeah, and then after that, just the season could not get any better. Another good example of them not servicing their main characters correctly was that this particular season really seriously built up to an eventual final confrontation between Zeb and Rook. And you knew those two characters were going to go at it. They were going to have this amazing fight. And it was just, it just fell flat. It was just the most, you only saw a few seconds of it. There wasn't much choreography. It wasn't a very exciting fight. And it just ended almost as quickly as it began. We kept cutting away to other things. And again, it was a great setup that just didn't pay off at all. And another thing that really, really bothered me, among the many things that they spent the 4 seasons establishing, was the fact that Ezra was being trained to be this amazing Jedi, this super badass, awesome Jedi, and there was no lightsaber battle at the end. None. Did all the Inquisitors die? Did I miss it when they all perished? Were they all completely gone? I assume that since Sarah Michelle Gellar's character was the seventh sister, that there were 5 other Inquisitors, not counting the sixth son. There were 5 other Inquisitors running around. Where did they go? Since they established that there are 7, I expected every season to, meet the others. And nope, they didn't show up. I expected all 5 of them to show up at the very end and fight Ezra or something. Like Darth Vader to go off and get them. But that didn't happen. Alright. No more stalling. Let's talk about the thing that sadly everybody's talking about as far as the show is concerned, and it's not the space whales, and it's not Dave Filoni's ridiculous obsession with wolves. It's not Darth Vader, it's not Grand Admiral Thrawn, it's none of those things. What everybody is losing their shit over is that they officially introduced time travel into Star Wars. Now, while I agree with some people that folks are making too much of a big deal out of this, I will admit that I don't like it. So far, Star Wars has made it this far without introducing the loophole of time travel into the mix. The fact that whatever happens in the movies is canon. The end. Whether you like it or love it, whether it's Han Solo or Jar Jar Binks, it is canon. And throughout the course of Star Wars Rebels, they would introduce things in the show that would later show up in the new movies. And people are freaking out that now that they introduced time travel and they can create an alternate timeline, very much like what J.J. Abrams did with Star Trek, that now J.J. Abrams is going to do the same thing with Star Wars, and that will be the launching pad to this new trilogy of movies that everybody's favorite director, Rian Johnson, will be directing. For those of you who don't know, Rian Johnson directed The Last Jedi, which has had a very divisive reaction from the fans. I'm personally okay with it. Okay, feel free to hate on me. Okay, I'm personally okay with the movie. I enjoyed it a lot, but I respect that a lot of people didn't like it, and I question their decision giving the director that directed that movie the opportunity to direct a whole brand new original trilogy based strictly on his writing. So yeah, people are freaking out over that, and while I'm not freaking out, I respect their concern. I get it, time travel is something that should be used sparingly. I remember one of the coolest things that stayed with me that Bruce Timm said when him and the DC animated crew started producing Justice League, the animated series, was that the rule for the writers was that they could only do one time travel story per season, because otherwise all the stories would be time travel. Something that happened a lot in Star Trek Voyager. Every other episode was a time travel episode, which was ridiculous. The finale was a time travel episode. Anyway, so now that this huge thing has been introduced to the Star Wars universe, I completely understand everybody's concern. I thought it was a very cheap way to explain what happened to Ahsoka. I am glad that the character's still alive, that she will go on to be in other Star Wars things, but I'm a huge fan of Ashley Eckstein. Yeah, I wish they wouldn't have gone there, and I wish they wouldn't introduced it as a pseudo-force Jedi power. Because it brings up a lot of questions, like why hadn't the Jedi ever used this ability before? Have they used it before? Can the Sith use it as well? It's just, they just, opened this can of worms that seriously did not need to be open. And I get everybody's persistent freak out. So, after seeing this, I am glad that I did start collecting this show on DVD. Like I said, the first 3 seasons are really good. And I highly recommend them to any hardcore Star Wars fan. It's just the ending is fair at best. The last season and the finale is just, it's fair at best. It's not the worst. It's not the worst show finale I've ever seen. God knows there are worse. Battlestar Galactica, one of the worst series finales of all time. Far worse than this one, but this one is definitely, I would say, top 50 worse. not top 5, top 50 of all the shows of all time. Definitely something that was a bit of a letdown. Not a huge letdown, just a bit of a letdown. It could have been better, especially with all the previous amazing seasons. So there you go. Those are my final thoughts on Star Wars Rebels. Make of them what you will. Agree, disagree, feel free to say so in the comment section below. Use me and abuse me. That's what I'm here for. To be your target, to vent on. As per usual, I beg of each and every one of you, do not fight amongst yourselves. We're all on the same team. Respect each other's opinions. This is an open forum for all of us to enjoy ourselves, talk about these silly shows and movies that we love so much, and have fun, okay? A few quick announcements. A lot of you have been asking me, when the hell am I gonna do my honest review of Batman Gotham by Gaslight? I intended to do it this past month. Guys, my schedule was insane. My day job is freaking killing me. I just didn't have the time, guys. So I promise you that by the end of this month, I will have it done. It's in the works. And very soon after that, I will do an honest review right here on my Patreon page of Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold. Alright? So, yeah, they got me. I finally bought a Scooby-Doo animated movie on DVD after all these years. With in spite of my dislike of Scooby-Doo, they finally got me. And another thing, because, I'm getting a little bit more revenue now and I have a bit more capital these days, thank God, I am planning start printing out Blockbuster Buster t-shirts for you guys. That's going to be my project within the next 5 months, and I'm going to start giving them away for free. At least 25 of them I will give away for free to you guys, to the patrons. So stay tuned, and as long as you're a patron, you will have the opportunity to win a free Blockbuster Buster t-shirt like the one that I wear during my reviews and my episodes. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, because I could not do what I do without you, and may the Force be with you.